Grandma, I remember now what you did to me in the basement. My granddaughter Lily said this to me across my own kitchen table, her 8-year-old face solemn in a way that stopped my heart. Her younger brother Mason, only 6, nodded beside her with the rehearsed certainty of a child who'd been told what to think. My daughter Jennifer stood in the doorway behind them, her arms crossed, her expression harder than I'd ever seen it. That was 3 months ago. I haven't been allowed to see them since. But to understand how I ended up here, barred from my own family, accused of horrors I never committed, watching my daughter choose her husband's lies over 38 years of being her mother, you need to know about Drew. Drew Richardson came into our lives 6 years ago with a warm smile, a master's degree in clinical psychology, and what seemed like genuine affection for my daughter. He was thoughtful, attentive. He remembered everyone's coffee order and asked follow-up questions about things you'd mentioned weeks before. The kind of son-in-law who helps with dishes without being asked and sends thank you notes for birthday gifts. I thought we were lucky. Jennifer had been through a difficult divorce when the kids were toddlers. Her first husband had been charming but unreliable, the kind of man who promised the world and delivered disappointment. Drew seemed like the opposite. Stable, present. He'd even started his own therapy practice, specializing in childhood trauma, which Jennifer said made him especially good with Lily and Mason as they navigated having a stepdad. He's so patient with them. She'd tell me during our weekly coffee dates, back when we still had those. He really listens. Like, actually listens. He says most adults just talk at kids, but he's teaching them to identify and express their feelings. I was happy for her. God help me, I was grateful he'd stepped up. The first time I noticed something off was about a year after they married. I'd stopped by to drop off some books I'd found for Lily. She was going through a dinosaur phase, and I discovered a beautiful illustrated encyclopedia at an estate sale. The kind of thing that made me think of her immediately, the way grandmothers do. Drew answered the door. Jennifer was at work, but he'd taken the afternoon off to watch the kids. "Oh, Barbara," he said, and there was something in his tone. Not quite disappointed, but close. "Did Jennifer know you were coming by?" "I was just in the neighborhood," I said, holding up the book. "Found this for Lily. I can leave it with you if now's not a good time." "It's not that it's a bad time," he said, not moving from the doorway. "It's just, we're really trying to be intentional about the kids' routine. Unexpected visitors can be disruptive, even when they're family. Especially when they're family, actually. Attachment patterns and all that." He smiled when he said it. Kind. Reasonable. Like he was doing me a favor by explaining. I handed him the book and left. Later, when I mentioned it to Jennifer, she'd laughed it off. "He's probably right, Mom. They do get overstimulated. You know how Lily gets." I did know how Lily got. I'd been the one taking care of her 2 days a week since she was born while Jennifer worked. But I didn't push it. That was my first mistake. Looking back now, I can see the pattern beginning. The gentle corrections, the professional terminology that made everything sound clinical and therefore true. The way he'd reframe any concern as my anxiety or overstepping, never as his control. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The visits became more scheduled after that. I couldn't just drop by anymore. I needed to check the family calendar first. Jennifer would apologize, say Drew was helping them be more organized, and wasn't it nice to have some structure? The kids seemed fine, happy even. Lily still ran to hug me when I arrived, still chattered about school and her friends and whatever animal she was currently obsessed with. Mason, quieter by nature, would sometimes sit in my lap while I read to him. He smelled like maple syrup and crayon wax, and he'd trace the illustrations with one finger while I turned the pages. "Those afternoons felt sacred." I should have paid more attention to the questions Drew started asking. They were casual at first. During family dinners, he'd bring up something about childhood development, some study he'd read. "Barbara, did you use any particular parenting philosophy with Jennifer?" "I'm curious about generational approaches to discipline. I don't know if I'd call it a philosophy, I'd say. Mostly just tried to love her and keep her from burning the house down." He'd laugh. "But you must have had some structure. Consequences for misbehavior?" "Time. Outs, mostly. took away privileges when she was older. The usual, did you ever use physical punishment? Jennifer would look up at this and I'd feel suddenly defensive. I spanked her maybe 3 times in 18 years. I'm not proud of it, but it was a different time. No judgment, Drew would say, hands up, just trying to understand the full picture of her childhood. It helps me support her better now. It all sounded so reasonable. The questions continued over months, always framed as curiosity, as professional interest. Did I have a temper when Jennifer was young? Had I struggled with postpartum depression? What was my relationship like with my own mother? Had there been any addiction in the family? I answered honestly because I had nothing to hide. Yes, I'd had some hard days as a new mother. No, I'd never been formally diagnosed with anything, but the 70s weren't big on mental health care for women anyway. My mother had been cold and critical, and I'd worked hard to be different with Jennifer. My father had been a drinker, but he'd quit when I was 12. Drew would nod thoughtfully, like he was filing everything away, which I now understand he was. About 8 months before Lily's accusation, Drew suggested family therapy. Just some sessions with me and Jennifer, he explained. Nothing to do with you, Barbara. We're working through some stuff from her childhood, helping her process. Process what? I asked Jennifer later. She was vague. Just some feelings I've been having. Drew thinks it might help to talk through my relationship with you. In a healthy way, she added quickly. He says, even good mothers make mistakes, and it's okay to acknowledge that. Something cold settled in my stomach. What mistakes? It's not about blame, Mom. It's about understanding pattern. Like how you could be kind of controlling when I was growing up, making decisions for me. I was your mother. That's what mothers do. See, that's the kind of thing we're working on. The defensiveness. I didn't know what to say to that. How do you defend yourself against being called defensive? The distance grew after that. Our weekly coffee dates became monthly, then stopped altogether. Jennifer was busy. The kids had activities. Drew thought it might be good to have some space while they worked through things. I tried not to panic. I told myself it was normal, that families go through phases. Jennifer was 40 years old. She didn't need to have coffee with her mother every week. But Lily and Mason, I missed them with a physical ache. When I finally pushed back, asked point blank when I could see my grandchildren, Jennifer got quiet. Drew thinks, she started, and I felt my jaw tighten at those 2 words that had started to precede everything. Drew thinks it might be good to take a break for a bit, just until we finish processing some things. Processing what things? Jennifer, they're my grandchildren. And they're my children, Mom. I need you to respect that Drew and I are making decisions in their best interest. Their best interest is not having a relationship with their grandmother. Their best interest is not being around someone who might be harmful to their development. The word harmful hit me like a slap. What are you talking about? But she wouldn't elaborate. Just said they'd be in touch when they were ready, and hung up. That was 2 months before Lily's accusation. 2 months of me trying to figure out what I'd done wrong, replaying every interaction, every visit, every conversation, calling Jennifer and getting voicemail, texting and getting short, cold responses, sending cards to the kids that went unanswered. I started seeing a therapist myself. Not Drew, obviously. Dr. Patricia Chen, a woman in her 60s recommended by my doctor. I needed someone to tell me I wasn't crazy, that this situation was as bizarre as it felt. It sounds like you're being isolated, doctor, Chen said gently, and the accusations are very vague. Has your daughter given you any specific examples of harmful behavior? No, just that Drew thinks I'm harmful. And Drew is a therapist. Yes. Who is married to your daughter and treating her as a client. Is that allowed? Ethically? Absolutely not. Legally? It's complicated. Doctor. Chen tapped her pen against her notepad. Barbara, I want you to document everything. Dates, times, conversations, every text, every email. If this escalates, you'll need a record. I thought she was being paranoid. She wasn't. The call came on a Tuesday morning. Jennifer's voice was shaking. Mom, The kids have been having nightmares. Memories are coming up. We need to talk. Hope flared stupidly in my chest. She wanted to talk. Maybe this was the beginning of fixing things. Of course. When? I can come over right now. No, not at the house. Drew thinks it should be neutral territory. Can you meet us at the coffee shop on Brenner Street? Tomorrow at 10? I arrived 15 minutes early and ordered tea I didn't drink. When Jennifer came in with Drew, his hand on the small of her back, protective and possessive, I understood this wasn't reconciliation. They sat across from me. Drew had a leather notebook. Jennifer wouldn't meet my eyes. Barbara, Drew started, his voice gentle in that clinical way he had. Thank you for meeting with us. This is difficult, but it's important we have this conversation. What's going on? Jennifer said the kids are having nightmares. They are, Jennifer said, her voice thick. About you. The world tilted slightly. About me? Drew leaned forward. Over the past few months, working with Jennifer, some concerning patterns emerged. When we explored them, it became clear that there might be some unresolved trauma from her childhood. And as we created a safe space for that exploration, Lily and Mason started having their own. Recollections. Recollections of what? Of times when boundaries were crossed, Drew said carefully. When they felt unsafe. When discipline became excessive. I looked at Jennifer. You think I hurt them? I don't know what to think anymore, Mom. Her eyes were red. Lily's been having nightmares about the basement. Mason won't talk about it, but he gets upset when we mention your house. My basement? It's finished. It's where we do puzzles, where I keep the art supplies. Exactly, Drew said, like I'd proven his point. Isolated space. Away from observation. Classic grooming behavior. Grooming behavior? The words came out too loud. An elderly couple at the next table glanced over. I lowered my voice. I'm her grandmother. I've been taking care of those children since they were born. And that's part of what we're unpacking, Drew said. The enmeshment, the boundary violations, the way you inserted yourself into the parenting dynamic. Jennifer asked me to help. She needed childcare. And you used that access, Drew said quietly, to create dependency, to position yourself as irreplaceable in their lives. It's actually a very common pattern in generational trauma. I felt like I was drowning. This is insane. Jennifer, you know me. You know I would never. I thought I knew you, she said, and she was crying now. But Drew's helped me see things I'd normalized. The way you'd lock me in my room as punishment. The way you'd withhold affection when I disappointed you. The time you... She stopped, pressed her hand to her mouth. The time I... What? Jennifer, what are you talking about? I never locked you in your room. You don't remember because you've rewritten the narrative, Drew said. Abyssers often do. It's not necessarily intentional, Barbara. But Jennifer's memories are real. And now that the kids are in a safe environment, their memories are surfacing too. Safe environment? Without me, you mean? Without exposure to someone who may have harmed them, yes. I stood up. The chair scraped loud against the floor. I won't listen to this. Jennifer, please. Think about what you're saying. You're my daughter. I love you. I love those children. I know you do, she said, wiping her eyes. That's what makes this so hard. But love doesn't erase harm. What harm? What specifically am I supposed to have done? They exchanged a look. Some wordless communication passed between them. We're not here to litigate details, Drew said. We're here to set a boundary. Jennifer and I have decided, for the safety and well-being of Lily and Mason, that unsupervised contact with you isn't appropriate right now. Unsupervised? You think I need supervision to see my grandchildren? We think, Drew said, his voice maddeningly calm, that no contact is best until we've worked through this as a family. With professional support, I want to talk to them. To Lily and Mason. Let me ask them myself what? Absolutely not, Jennifer said, and there was steel in her voice I'd never heard before. You are not going to interrogate traumatized children. That's exactly the kind of behavior Drew's been helping me recognize. I looked at my daughter, this woman I'd raised, nursed through chicken pox and bad breakups and new motherhood, and saw a stranger. So, this is it? I said. You're just cutting me out? Based on what? Bad dreams and Drew's theories? Based on a pattern of emotional abuse that I'm only now able to name, Jennifer said. And there it was. Drew had given her the language, the framework, the permission to rewrite 38 years of our history into something dark and damaging. I left without finishing my tea. That was 3 months ago. Since then, I've learned what it feels like to be erased from your own family. To send birthday cards that get returned unopened. To drive past the playground where you used to push your grandchildren on the swings and wonder if they even remember you. To wonder if their memories of you are being actively rewritten. Chen recommended I consult a family attorney. You might have grandparent visitation rights, she said, especially given the abruptness of the cutoff. The attorney, a brisk woman named Lisa Huang, reviewed my situation with the kind of expression that told me she'd seen worse, but not by much. Here's the problem, she said. Grandparent rights in this state are limited. You'd have to prove that denying you access is harmful to the children. There hasn't been. I believe you. But they can make it very difficult, especially with him being a licensed therapist. Courts give a lot of weight to mental health professionals. So I just have to accept this? I didn't say that. I said it's difficult. We could file a petition for visitation. It would force them to present evidence of this alleged harm. But Barbara, she leveled me with a serious look. Are you prepared for what that might look like? For your grandchildren to testify? For your daughter to detail what she believes you did? I wasn't. But I also couldn't just do nothing. What are my options? Document everything. Save every text, every email, every returned card. If you have photos or videos that show positive interactions with the kids, preserve those. Witnesses who can attest to your relationship with them. We need to build a counter-narrative. I started going through my phone that night. 5 years of photos. Lily and Mason and me at the zoo, at the park, baking cookies, reading stories. Lily's gap-toothed grin as she held up a drawing she'd made me. Mason asleep on my shoulder during a movie. My hands shook as I backed everything up to 3 different places. The next morning, I called my sister Rachel in Phoenix. She's 4 years older than me, sharper-tongued and less patient, but she's always been in my corner. Let me get this straight, she said after I explained everything. Your son-in-law, who's a therapist, is treating your daughter as a patient, which is unethical as hell, and has convinced her that you abused her and the grandkids. And nobody thinks this is suspicious? Jennifer doesn't see it that way. She thinks he's helping her heal. From what? You were a good mother, Barb. Not perfect, but who is? You think I don't remember you at Jennifer's school plays, her soccer games, sitting up with her when she had nightmares? This is gaslighting on a massive scale. But what can I do? She's an adult. I can't force her to. No, but you can fight for those kids. And you need to start by finding out what Drew's been telling them. How am I supposed to do that? I can't even see them. Rachel was quiet for a moment. Do they still go to Oakmont Elementary? As far as I know. And you still have that friend who volunteers in the library there? Carol? Carol Sanders, yes. But Rachel, I can't. You're not stalking your grandchildren. You're checking on their welfare. There's a difference. I didn't call Carol, but I did drive past the school at pickup time. Just once, just to see if they were okay. And there they were. Lily with her backpack covered in dinosaur pins, Mason holding hands with another little boy. They looked fine. Happy, even. Drew picked them up in his expensive SUV, and I watched him kneel down to their height, saying something that made them both laugh. The perfect stepfather. I pulled away before he could see me. Chen and I talked about a lot of things over the next few weeks. Grief. Anger. The particular hell of being accused of something you didn't do and having no way to prove your innocence. The thing about false accusations, she said. is that they put you in an impossible position. If you defend yourself too vigorously, you look defensive. If you don't defend yourself enough, silence becomes admission. So, what do I do? You keep living your life. You stay connected to the people who know you. You don't let this consume you. Easier said than done. But I tried. I went back to my book club, where I'd been absent for months. My friend Denise took one look at me and pulled me aside. Where have you been? We've been worried sick. I told her a simplified version. Family trouble, cut off from the grandkids, can't get into details. She hugged me fiercely. Those kids are lucky to have you, she said. Whatever's going on, don't forget that. I wanted to believe her. At home that night, I found myself going through old videos on my laptop. Jennifer's high school graduation, her wedding to her first husband, the day she brought Lily home from the hospital and I held my first grandchild, that tiny, perfect person, and promised her I'd always be there. Some promises apparently other people get to break for you. I was in the middle of a video of Mason's third birthday party, him covered in chocolate cake, giggling as I wiped his face when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Is this Barbara Mitchell? Yes? My name is Claire Sorensen. I'm a caseworker with Child Protective Services. My heart stopped. What? Why are you calling me? We received a report concerning your grandchildren, Lily and Mason Richardson. The report alleges a history of physical and emotional abuse. I need to ask you some questions. Of course! Of course, Drew would escalate to CPS. Build the paper trail. Make it official. I never hurt those children, I said, and I hated how defensive I sounded. How desperate. I understand this is difficult, Miss Mitchell. I'm just trying to gather information. Can you tell me about your relationship with your grandchildren? I told her everything. The caregiving I'd done, the activities we'd shared, the absolute impossibility of what I was being accused of. She listened without comment, asked clarifying questions, gave nothing away. And you've had no contact with the children for approximately 3 months? Their parents won't allow it? I see. And has there been any prior CPS involvement with this family? Not that I'm aware of. Okay. Appreciate your cooperation, Miss Mitchell. Someone will likely be in touch for a follow-up. She hung up. I sat there in my living room, surrounded by years of happy memories contradicted by someone's cruel fiction, and finally let myself cry. The CPS investigation went nowhere. Insufficient evidence. Case closed after 2 weeks, but the damage was done. Now there was a record, an official report, even if unsubstantiated. Something Drew could point to. See? Even the authorities were concerned. Lisa Huang filed the petition for grandparent visitation. Jennifer and Drew's attorney responded with a counterclaim so vicious it left me breathless. 20 pages detailing my alleged abuse. Specific incidents I had no memory of because they'd never happened. Jennifer's recovered memories of my temper, my manipulation, my controlling behavior, and 2 affidavits from Lily and Mason dictated to Drew, describing things I'd supposedly done in my basement. The kinds of things that made me physically ill to read. This is going to get ugly, Lisa warned. They're playing hardball. He knows exactly what he's doing. Can they do this? Just lie? They can allege anything they want. We'll have to disprove it in court. But Barbara, I need to prepare you. Children's testimony, even coached testimony, carries weight. And he's their stepfather and a therapist. He'll present as credible. So what do? We find an expert witness, someone who can explain how false memories work, how suggestible children are, how someone with Drew's training could manipulate them. She found Dr. Richard Foster, a psychologist who'd written extensively on false memory syndrome and parental alienation. He agreed to review the case, and after 2 weeks of going through everything, the timeline, the allegations, Drew's credentials and methods, he called me himself. Miss Mitchell, I've reviewed your materials. I want to be very clear with you. What you're describing is a textbook case of manufactured abuse allegations. The pattern is unmistakable. So you believe me. I believe the evidence. The sudden onset of memories after months of therapeutic sessions, the escalating narrative, the isolation of the target, the use of suggestive questioning with young children. Your son-in-law has essentially conducted an unethical implantation protocol. Can you prove that? Not definitively without examining the children myself, which I assume won't be allowed, but I can provide expert testimony about the methods and their effects. I can explain to a judge how easily children can be led to believe events that never occurred, especially by someone they trust. It felt like the first hope I'd had in months. The court date was set for 6 weeks out. Lisa prepared me for what to expect, for seeing Jennifer and Drew, for possibly seeing the children, for hearing terrible things said about me under oath. Don't react, she coached. Don't cry, don't argue, don't get angry. You need to be the composed, rational grandmother. Let their story have holes. Let them look like the extremists. I practiced being stone-faced in the mirror. I practiced breathing through panic. I didn't practice for what actually happened. 3 days before the hearing, my phone rang at 2 a.m. Unknown number again. I answered, groggy and disoriented. Barbara? It's Jennifer. I sat up so fast I got dizzy. Jennifer? What's wrong? Are the kids okay? The kids are fine. They're asleep. Drew's asleep. I'm in the bathroom. Her voice was strange, whispering but urgent. What's going on? I found something. On Drew's computer. He thought I was asleep, but I came downstairs for water and his office door was open and I saw she stopped. I heard her breathing, fast and shallow. Saw what? Session notes. From his work with me? With the kids? Barbara, it's all there. The questions he asked. The way he phrased things. He has a whole protocol written out. Memory recovery techniques. Guided visualization for trauma access. Mom, he wasn't helping us remember. He was creating memories that weren't there. My whole body went cold. Are you sure? I'm reading it right now. There's a timeline. It starts from 6 months before you and I even had our first therapy session. He was planning this. He has notes about establishing baseline narrative and introducing inconsistencies and, oh God. Mom, there's a section about the kids, about how children's suggestibility can be therapeutically utilized to reinforce maternal protective responses. He was using you, I said, making you think you needed to protect them from me. There are recordings, she whispered, audio files of sessions. I can hear myself, but I don't remember. He must have been, Mom, what did he do to me? Can you save those files? I'm trying. I'm emailing them to myself right now. But if he wakes up, Jennifer, listen to me. If you think you're in danger, you need to take the kids and leave. Right now, I can't. If I leave, if he knows I found this, he's got copies of everything at his office. He'll destroy it. And I'm so confused. I can't tell what's real anymore. You're real. I'm real. The fact that you're calling me is real. She started crying, quiet sobs that broke my heart. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The things I said to you, the things I let him, we'll deal with that later. Right now, you need to get those files somewhere safe. Email them to me. Email them to yourself at multiple addresses. Download them to a thumb drive if you can. And Jennifer, I waited until her crying quieted. You need to protect those kids. If he realizes I know. Appulse, the files are sent. I have to go. I have to delete the sent messages so he doesn't call me tomorrow. Somewhere he can't hear. I will. Mom? Yeah? I love you. I'm so sorry. The line went dead. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I sat at my computer, refreshing my email every 30 seconds until the files came through. When they did, 7 audio files and 40 pages of session notes, I downloaded everything immediately, backed it up to 3 different cloud services, and emailed copies to Lisa Huang with a subject line in all caps. Urgent evidence. She called me at 6 a.m., which meant she'd been up reading them too. Holy shit, she said without preamble. Barbara, he documented everything. He literally wrote out his manipulation protocol. I've never seen anything like this. Is it enough? It's enough to destroy him. Professionally, legally, ethically, he's done. This is gross malpractice at minimum, possibly criminal. And the audio, she paused. You can hear him leading Jennifer, asking questions designed to create false memories, reinforcing them when she's uncertain. It's textbook implantation technique. What do we do? I'm calling the judge's chambers as soon as they open. We're moving for an emergency hearing today. And I'm filing a complaint with the state licensing board. Drew Richardson's career is over. What about Jennifer? And the kids? That depends on her. If she's willing to testify to what he did, she's scared. She doesn't know what's real anymore. Then we'll need to proceed carefully. But, Barbara, we have him. He documented his own unethical conduct. You can't fake this kind of evidence. The emergency hearing happened that afternoon. Jennifer didn't come. She called Lisa and said Drew had noticed she was acting strange, that she'd told him she was sick and was staying home with the kids. But she'd given Lisa permission to use the files. Drew showed up with his attorney, confident and composed, right up until Lisa started playing the audio recordings in open court. You could watch the blood drain from his face as his own voice filled the courtroom. Leading questions, suggestive phrasing, positive reinforcement when Jennifer expressed doubt about her memories, negative when she expressed confidence in me. And when you think back to your childhood, Jennifer, what feelings come up around discipline? I don't know. Normal stuff, I guess? Mom wasn't perfect, but what? What's the but there? I mean, she had her moments. Every parent does. What kind of moments? Can you describe one? I remember one time I got sent to my room for talking back. I was probably being a brat. Being a brat, interesting that you frame it that way, blaming yourself. That's actually really common in children who've experienced emotional abuse. They internalize the parent's narrative. I don't think it was abuse. It was just normal punishment. Okay, but sent to your room? Was the door locked? I don't remember. Maybe. I don't think so. Take your time. Close your eyes if it helps. Picture yourself in that room. Are you able to leave? A long pause. I don't know. It's fuzzy. That's okay. Traumatic memories often are. Let's try something. I'm going to count down from 5, and as I do, I want you to picture that room. The door, whether it's locked, whether you can get out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What do you see? The door is. I think it might be locked. I'm trying the handle and it's not opening. And how does that make you feel? Scared? No, that doesn't seem right. Why would I be scared of my own room? Maybe because it wasn't a safe space. Maybe because being locked in felt like abandonment, like rejection. I guess? Yeah, I guess it did. The judge stopped the recording there. Is this representative of your therapeutic sessions with Miss Mitchell's daughter? Drew's attorney stood. Your Honor, this is taken out of context. Memory recovery therapy is illegitimate. Legitimate? Lisa was on her feet. Your Honor, Doctor, Foster's report details exactly how illegitimate these techniques are. This is manufactured memory, not recovered memory. The academic consensus is clear. The judge held up a hand. I've read Dr. Foster's report. I've read Mr. Richardson's session notes, where he explicitly outlines a protocol for, and I'm quoting here, establishing abuse narrative through graduated questioning and visualization reinforcement. Does your client dispute that these are his notes? Drew's attorney looked at Drew, who'd gone very pale. Oui. We'd need to review them too. They're his notes, the judge said flatly. They're on his practice letterhead, logged in his patient management system, backed up to his professional cloud account. Richardson, do you have anything to say? Drev stood slowly. For the first time since I'd known him, he looked uncertain. Your Honor, I was operating under the belief that I was helping my wife process real trauma. If my methods were flawed— Your methods weren't flawed, the judge interrupted. They were deliberately manipulative. You systematically implanted false memories in your wife regarding her mother, then extended those techniques to minor children. That's not therapy. That's abuse. I never intended. Your intentions are documented in 40 pages of session notes. You knew exactly what you were doing. The judge turned to me. Miss Mitchell, I'm granting your petition for immediate visitation rights. Furthermore, I'm ordering a full psychological evaluation of both children by an independent expert, and I'm referring this case to the State Licensing Board and the District Attorney's Office for investigation. Drew's attorney tried to object, but the judge wasn't having it. I'm also issuing a restraining order prohibiting Mr. Richardson from conducting any therapeutic sessions with his wife or stepchildren pending the outcome of these investigations. This hearing is adjourned. The gavel came down. Drew stood there, his carefully constructed world crumbling around him, and for just a moment his mask slipped. Isauraga. Pure, cold rage that he'd been caught. Then it was gone, replaced by concern. Your Honor, I'm worried about my wife. She's been under tremendous stress and making accusations that— Your wife isn't here to make accusations, the judge said. She's at home with your children, which is probably the safest place for all of them right now. This court is adjourned. I didn't see Jennifer for another week. When she finally called, her voice was different, smaller, exhausted. Can you come over? Drew's staying with his brother. It's just me and the kids. I drove there shaking. When she opened the door, she looked like she'd aged years. We stood there in the doorway, not touching, until she started crying and I pulled her into my arms. I don't know what's real, she sobbed against my shoulder. I have all these memories, and I don't know which ones are mine and which ones he put there. I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. We'll figure it out, I said. We'll get through this. Grandma? A small voice from the stairs. Lily, looking uncertain. Are you really here? I looked past Jennifer at my granddaughter, this child I'd feared I'd lost forever. I'm really here, sweetheart. Mason said you might not come back, that we'd been bad and made you leave. Jennifer made a choked sound. Baby, no. Grandma didn't leave. And you weren't bad. You were— She looked at me helplessly. You were confused, I said carefully. And sometimes grown-ups get confused too. But I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. Lily flew down the stairs and crashed into me, her arms around my waist. Mason appeared a moment later, slower, more hesitant. When I held out my arm to him, he tucked himself against my side like he used to, and I felt something in my chest unlock. Can we do puzzles? He asked quietly. In the basement? Jennifer flinched. I squeezed Mason's shoulder gently. We can do puzzles anywhere you want, buddy. How about the kitchen table for today? He nodded, satisfied. The independent psychological evaluation took 3 weeks. The psychologist, Dr. Sandra Kim, met with each child separately, then together, then with Jennifer present. She reviewed all of Drew's session notes, listened to the recordings, and interviewed me twice. Her report was 42 pages long, but the conclusion was clear. Both children had been subjected to systematic suggestion and leading questions that had created false memories of abuse. Their nightmares had started only after specific therapeutic interventions by Drew. Their ability to distinguish between actual memories and suggested scenarios was severely compromised. In other words, Drew had implanted every terrible thing they thought I'd done. The state licensing board moved faster than I expected. 3 weeks after the hearing, Drew Richardson's license was suspended pending a full investigation. 2 weeks after that, he was charged with 3 counts of practicing therapy without informed consent and 1 count of child endangerment. His practice closed. His reputation was destroyed. His expensive SUV got repossessed. I wish I could say I felt triumphant. Mostly I felt tired. Jennifer started seeing Dr. Chen working through the genuine trauma of what Drew had done to her, untangling real memories from implanted, processing the violation of having her mind systematically manipulated by someone she'd loved and trusted. Some of the memories feel so real. She told me one afternoon over coffee. We'd started having coffee again, hesitantly rebuilding what had been broken. I can see myself in my childhood room with the door locked. I can feel the panic. But Dr. Chen says that's what makes implanted memories so insidious. They feel real because he taught my brain to construct them as real. I never locked you in your room, I said quietly. I promise you, Jennifer. I never did that. I know. Logically, I know, but my body doesn't know. It still reacts like it happened. She stirred her coffee without drinking it. How do I forgive myself for believing him? For what I put you through? You were a victim, I said. He was a professional, using professional techniques. You weren't supposed to be able to see through it. But the kids are resilient, and they're getting help. And they still have you, and they still have me. She finally looked up, her eyes red. Do they? Do you still want to be their grandmother after everything? Jennifer. I reached across the table for her hand. I never stopped being their grandmother. Even when I couldn't see them, even when they believed terrible things about me, they were still mine. You're still mine. She squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. The thing is, you don't get those months back. Mason's 6th birthday happened while I was banned from his life. Lily lost 2 teeth I didn't see. There are gaps in their childhood I'll never fill. But we're rebuilding. Slowly, carefully. Lily and I do puzzles together again, though she still gets anxious in the basement sometimes. We do them at the kitchen table instead, and I don't push. Mason started calling me Grandma again instead of Barbara. Drew had insisted they use my first name, another way of stripping our relationship of meaning. Jennifer is dating a high school teacher now, someone kind and uncomplicated who has his own therapist and would never dream of treating his partner as a patient. She's more careful about boundaries, more aware of manipulation tactics. Sometimes she apologizes for things that don't need apologizing for, and I remind her we're both learning. Drew pleaded no contest to the charges and lost his license permanently. Last I heard, he was selling insurance in another state. Jennifer got an annulment. Turned out you can void a marriage based on fraud when your spouse was actively gaslighting you the entire time. I still see Dr. Chen sometimes. We talk about trust, about rebuilding it in myself and others, about how some violations can't be undone, only integrated into who you become next. You know what strikes me, she said in our last session, is that you never really doubted yourself, even when everyone else did, even when there was documentation and testimony against you. You knew the truth. I had to, I said. If I'd started doubting myself, you would have won. The truth was all I had. She smiled. The truth and stubbornness. Well, I come by that honestly. Last week, Lily asked if she could interview me for a school project about family history. We sat in my living room, the same living room where I'd cried after Jennifer first cut me off, and she asked me questions from a worksheet. What's the most important thing you've learned in life, Grandma? I thought about it. About Drew and his carefully documented deceptions. About Jennifer's tortured confusion. About Mason's hesitant trust and Lily's nightmares. About the months I'd spent in exile from my own family. About the truth and what it costs to protect it. That love isn't enough by itself, I said finally. You also need honesty and courage, and sometimes you need proof. But mostly you need to know who you are, so nobody can convince you you're someone else. Lily wrote it down carefully in her note. Is that about what Drew did? Jennifer and I had been honest with the kids, age appropriately. They knew Drew had confused them, that the scary memories weren't real. They were in therapy themselves, learning to rebuild their sense of what was true. Yeah, honey, it's about what Drew did. I'm glad you didn't give up on us, she said, even when we believed the wrong things. I'm glad I didn't either. She put her worksheet aside and curled up next to me on the couch, fitting herself under my arm like she used to. We sat there while afternoon light filtered through the windows, and I thought about all the afternoons I'd thought I'd lost forever. Some of them were lost. Some damage can't be undone. But this moment, right now, with my granddaughter warm and solid against my side, this was real. This was mine. And nobody, not even someone with all the right credentials and all the wrong intentions, could take that away again. If you've made it this far in my story, thank you for listening. I know it wasn't an easy one to hear. Maybe you've had your own experience with someone who rewrote reality, who made you question what you knew was true. Maybe you're sitting with your own complicated family story right now, wondering what's real and what's been painted over. I don't have easy answers. I just know that truth has weight to it, even when it's buried. Even when it's denied. And sometimes the hardest thing and the most important thing are exactly the same. Refusing to let someone else tell you who you are. We're rebuilding here, my daughter and my grandchildren and me. Some days are better than others, but we're building on solid ground now, not on convenient fictions. And that, I'm learning, is enough.